So just because I've got crime on my brain, I'm kicking this off with like people in Joburg, they got so upset when Dainfern was built out far north. It's this big walled off suburb for the ultra
You don't
wealthy.
mean Waldorf as in the Waldorf?
As in the salad. No. No. I mean walled off, surrounded by walls, and it's for the kind of ultra wealthy, and they live out there underneath this massive sewer pipe. In a kind of strange, and now there's more of them. Century City and Steyn City and these kind of walled off suburbs, like fortified suburbs. And people in Joburg are kind of mixed about them, because if you live in them, you swear by them, and if you live outside of them, you hate everybody who lives in them. But the funny thing is, this is my fact, is that the very first suburb in the northern suburbs was a walled off suburb in Johannesburg. So the very first suburb ever to be developed in
the northern suburbs.
In the northern suburbs was in fact a walled off suburb. It's how Johannesburg has always done its suburbs in the north.
Well, what a fact. That's your fact, eh? So it depends what you mean by northern suburbs, eh? That means north of the city.
Yeah, north of the city, yeah.
Well, I know a little bit of one aspect of the history of Joburg, and I know it was a lot of farms to the north, but I don't know about any wall. So I'm going to say no, there were never walled off suburbs in the northern parts of Joburg. We're talking like after the Fort Trackers settled, you're saying like 1850. Do you know the date?
No.
Give me a date.
So the beginning of the city, right, is kind of the 1880s, right?
You mean with the gold rush?
Yeah, so that's the beginning of the city. And then what happens is a lot of tented camps get set up. And then they take those tented camps, and next to the tented camps, they mark out plots, and they mark out what becomes now central Johannesburg with the proper streets and the proper everything else. And then the businesses that were in the tented camps move into these proper streets, and the tented camps kind of officially become the first suburbs. So you've got kind of Ferrerisdorp and these kind of Turffontein and Jeppe and these sorts of places become
Marshalltown.
Yeah, that's right. And Fordsburg and these places become the first sort of suburbs. But they're all sort of south of Joburg, south and around the bottom end, because that's obviously nearer to the mines. At that time, the rich people used to live in the actual city itself, so in the town itself, and they felt, they were too close to the dust and to the people and everything else. But you're right. At that stage, north of the city was farms, and
I'm going to say, no. Hey, I've said no. You're lying. Okay.
All right. Okay. I mean, if you want, you can take it back. Yes. You sure?
No.
Okay. So then in 1890, this dude by the name of Edouard Lippert, I don't know how to pronounce it, Edward Lippert, he bought a farm north of Johannesburg.
What the heck was he doing in Joburg? What's this French shark doing here?
Yeah, but so I'll tell you what he was doing, because he planted the Saxonwald forest. And that wood was being used in the mines. So he bought this big farm called and planted the Saxonwald forest. And then part of the farm was the ridge that is now the Parktown Ridge. And he could see the views and things, and he saw a lot of potential for that area to become housing, and he subdivided it into plots. But it was only really in like 1892 that a woman by the name of Lady Florence, I think it's Florence Phillips, she rode her horse out of town to the north, and she rode up that Parktown Ridge, and she could see the Magaliesberg in the distance and the Saxonwald forest below her, and she convinced her husband that they had to build their mansion there. Yeah, and so they built a mansion there, and it was the first proper landlord style house called Hohenheim, and very quickly that area then became very popular amongst the wealthy who then wanted to build their own mansions at the top of the ridge. And it quickly got subdivided and turned into a proper little town, and streets were laid out, and they were all given these kind of quaint English names, and there's a square there, much like an English village. And indeed, it was walled off.
Good grief.
So Parktown, when it was first developed, was a walled-off suburb for the ultra-wealthy.
Wow.
For the landlords of Johannesburg.
Good grief, man.
There you go.
That's a lovely fact.
Yeah,
so, yeah.